Good morning, people, and welcome back to the Blues feed. Um, Danny is back alongside me today. Danny, it's been a little while since we've been together again. How are you? How's things? How's life?
Yeah, it's going all right, mate. Little one settling in, starting to be a little bit more awake and feeding a bit more, so it means he can sleep for a little bit longer, which makes overnight a little bit easier. But yeah, no, outside of slightly sleep deprived, I'm okay.
Excellent, mate. It's nice to have you back alongside me.
It feels
Last
like it's
episode,
been a long time. I know it's only probably been a week and a half
yeah,
or
it
something like
just
that, but
feels
it
a
feels
while,
like
doesn't
ages. Yeah.
it? Obviously, last week I had Jay alongside me, which was a good episode, and yeah, we're back. So before we jump into a new episode um, and talking our same obsession as always, I just want to remind you all about giveaway. We're sort of a third of the way there now, and we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. And once we do that, one of you lucky people will be winning a Chelsea shirt from this season of your choice. Just make sure you subscribe on YouTube, like, comment, all of that stuff there. Danny, let's get into it, mate, because there is a lot going on. I think the first couple of weeks we started this podcast, it was a little bit a little bit of regurgitation of news at times, constantly talking about the same things. This week is not that. It's not like that at all. We've got a lot to talk about, and we're going to start by talking about an absolute plethora of outgoings. So, for those of you watching, you'll see along the bottom of the screen all the players we're going to talk about. For those listening, we'll break them down one by one. So, Danny, give me your thoughts. Let's go with Leslie Ugachukwu and Amanda Broja first. Both sort of off to Burnley. What's your thoughts on the deals, on the players, etc.?
Yeah, I think Ugachuk was kind of a little bit unlucky with the fact that our midfield is so good that actually he probably would have had a bit more of a chance if that wasn't the case. I mean, he's not better than Santos, Lavia, Enzo, or Caicedo, but I think he's a very competent player. I think he's probably a little bit hard done by not really having a chance at Chelsea, but good move to Burnley, not a bad fee. I'm pretty sure we'll either make a slight profit or get book value back for the deal, so can't complain. Um, and Broja, he's probably another one that if he didn't get the injury at the time he did get the injury, he could have solidified himself as Chelsea's number nine, but he never looked quite the same after the injury. So again, I'm quite glad he's got himself a Premier League move. I think he suits the Premier League quite well, and I know it was a bit weird with the reporting on what the fee was, and we didn't really see it, which probably means there's a load tied up in how much he plays due to his injury and stuff like that. But um, I think there was one report from Nazar that it was around 20 million. So again, it's all pro profit. He's so I can't complain too much, and good one to get off the wages. I can't imagine he was on a lot of wages, but less wages on the books and some money in the club. So yeah, can't complain at all.
It almost felt like on Monday when a lot of these news stories broke out that it was like, right, the players will return to the training ground today. Let's get rid of the ones we don't want. Let's just get rid of them now. Everyone's coming back. We don't want them in the same building. Let's go. So, obviously, then we had the likes of Dewsbury Hall that came out of nowhere and escalated really quickly. As much so as I think he had his medical at Everton yesterday. I think that's a good fee. Good. I like him. He's just not top six level. I just think that he was never the right signing. He gave us some good depth last year. He played a lot in the Conference League, and I thought whenever he came on for the last sort of 10, 15 minutes, his sort of pressing ability and sort of his energy was always nice to see, but just lacked a little bit of quality, really. And then one that we're both not massive fans of, but sort of understand the reasoning is Carney Chukwuemeka to Borussia Dortmund. Looks like it's finally going to go through and a permanent deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I think on the KDH one, it's probably one of let's give Maresca one of his boys to kind of settle him in a little bit because obviously he had it. He's got good data, and he's probably not. He's just not quite cut it, and we managed to basically get all of our money back from last year, which is probably a small FFP profit, and his wages off the book. So yeah, I think it's one of them ones. If we had less midfield and less depth now with all the other signings, it's probably one you go, well, we'll keep him for another year. He's good to have around the squad. He's not a bad egg at all, but um, makes sense for him to move on. I think he'd do quite well at Everton. He'll suit what Moyes wants to do, and play a lot of minutes, and he'll probably do quite well. It'll probably look like a good deal for Everton in the end, to be fair. On Carney, yeah, it's a real shame. I think he's a top talent. I think if he wasn't injured as much, you're probably looking at him at a similar level as a Xavi Simons, to be completely honest with you. I think he's got that much of ability, but his availability is just not there. And he's probably also come to the point of where he was signed pre-sporting directors on large wages, so relatively large wages, around that 100 grand mark, which is probably more than most of the other attackers that are on. So he needed to be moved on. So getting a permanent deal, I'm quite surprised. I thought we'd have to end up no permanent deal, no permanent deal, and then at the last knock-ins send him to Dortmund on loan again. So yeah, again, it's money in the door, wages off the book, and he doesn't look like he was ever going to be part of the plan. So just a good outgoing.
Yeah, it sort of feels like Chelsea have really said like let's get these outgoings done now, and I think with Carney Chukwuemeka especially, I think they've reduced their asking price a little bit to make the deal a little bit more plausible. To be honest, which it was one of them. It had to be done. We all knew Carney was going to go, and it just makes more sense for the club at this point and the player to have a permanent move and really sort of cut ties as much of a lot of the
He
fan
wanted
base.
to go to Germany, didn't he? Germany. He
Yeah,
probably seen
exactly.
Sancho and Jude, etc., go over there and explode, and then he can reevaluate in the future where he wants to go. So yeah,
It
I
wouldn't
think it
surprise me
makes
if
sense.
Chelsea put some form of sort of matching or buyback clause, or at least attempt to, because I don't think there's any doubt about the talent. I think it's like you say, the availability, which, as we all know, that's the sort of the biggest ability that you can have is being available. So, yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
one of those. It's a bit of a sad one, but you sort of understand the reasons behind it. Um,
I think also just on the outgoing seemed to speed up. I think they probably didn't want the situation that they had last year of a lot of bomb squad. Like there'll obviously still be
yeah,
some which we'll talk about in the next bit or so, but yeah, they probably will take a little bit off the value and just get them done so they're not hanging around.
yeah, it's just yeah, it's one of those really. I think that we've got to get it done. It needs to happen, and it's a lot of these players. It's time to move on. Really, one player that I wasn't massively expecting to be talking about in this regard is Tyreek George. Um, I sort of expected him to go out on loan this summer, and then maybe we sell him next summer, sort of thing. Really, I've been quite critical of Tyreek George overall. I think he's a good player, and I love the fact he's come through at Cobham, as I do with any player. I always want any Cobham player to make it, and if they make it at Chelsea, it's an absolute cherry on top. But realistically, there's only a select few that are ever really going to do it. And Tyreek's a good player, but I just don't think he'll get to that sort of real elite level of player. And with the players he's going to compete with in his position, it's going to be increasingly difficult for him to ever get in the Chelsea squad and really sort of secure a place in that squad. And yeah, cashing in on him, I think while his stocks are quite high, you might as well, because if he has
Yeah.
a bad loan, you could end up getting sort of 10 million less for him than what you could now. And similar with George, I think Chelsea will end up trying to put some form of matching rights or buyback in there. Not that I think we'd ever pull it up. But yeah, I think Tyreek's a good player, but I just don't think he's going to be Chelsea level in the end. And to be honest, I really hope I'm wrong. I hope he goes out, explodes, and really proves me wrong. But at this point, I don't see it. But he was a good player for us last year, a good squad player, and he really helped at times, especially when we didn't have a striker and we was lacking attackers towards the end of the season. So, and one thing you always say about the Cobham boys is they always wear their hearts on their sleeves and they always play for the badge, which is nice to see. What do you think on Tyreek, Danny?
Yeah, I probably echo a lot of your thoughts. I think I'd probably rate him slightly higher than yourself. You've been quite critical in our group chats of him, but I think I think we can agree that he probably isn't going to be Chelsea level, or certainly not anytime soon. And he's probably behind your Esteval's, even Payas, even Quenda. I'd probably say if you had Quenda this year, he'd play more minutes than Tyreek. So if you can get some money and he gets to go out and play more, then perfect. I think I saw a clip of the interview he did with Josh, and I can't remember where it was, but it was Josh and him having an interview, and they were talking about why Josh kind of signed the new deal, and he backs himself to make it at Chelsea, and regardless of who the competition is. Whereas Tyreek George kind of said, "I back myself to have the ability to play football at a high level, if that's at Chelsea or if that's not." So he was obviously already thinking about it. Um, I think his kind of potential is a good level of Premier League, like,
Mm.
but not top echelon. I mean, probably comes in the KDH bracket of he could play mid Premier League level, maybe even to the lower spots of the Europa League or the Conference League. But he even if we kept him, I don't think he'll play much this year, and I don't think he'd play much next year. Once you integrate potentially Pyers and Quenda next year, or just one of them, so yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, I agree, and I think similar to Carney, I think going out to Germany to explode will probably be his best bet, and it sounds like from all the reports that that's where Tyree wants to go. So, I, obviously, I wish him the best, and when I'm critical of him, it's not because I don't rate him; I just don't think he's that level. But he's a Cobham boy at the end of the day, and we want to see him go on and do well, and
That's the
ultimately,
best thing about Cobham, isn't it? Realistically, like obviously everybody wants Cobham players to make it at Chelsea, but you look at the amount of Cobham players that are now playing at a top level. People say about, oh, I wouldn't take my kids to Cobham because they don't have a pathway and they're always buying players. Well, yeah, but any half decent Cobham player will play at a decent level. The amount of ones that
yeah.
don't even make it to the Premier League, but they go and have good championship opportunities and stuff like that. So yeah, I think he'll do well. He'll be a decent footballer. He'll probably earn some good money in his life, and yeah, if he develops, he could come back and haunt us potentially because there is some ability there. But I think it makes sense for all parties now, and if it facilitates Xavi Simons even easier because they buy someone off us, we buy Xavi Simons, then it makes sense.
Talking of deals that make sense for all parties, you can see that there's been a bit of a change in the Nicholas Jackson saga over the last day or so. I think there was a report from David Ornstein yesterday morning. We're recording on the morning of the 6th of August. I think it was yesterday morning. David Ornstein come out with a tweet and mentioned that Nicholas Jackson is likely to go, and there's a lot of interest in him, especially in the Premier League. And then last night you had Fabrizio Romano come out and say Nicholas Jackson is leaving. So it sounds like that's going to bubble up. We're not 100% sure on his destination as of yet. My guess would be Newcastle. It seems as though they've lost out on another target in Benjamin Sesko. So United are off the cards probably for Jackson. As Sesko's going there. Aston Villa have just signed a new striker from Nice, I believe. So yeah, Jackson's options are starting to be limited, but also it seems though the move's getting a bit more concrete. Danny, what do you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't quite write off Villa yet because I know that Newcastle are interested in Watkins, so I think Newcastle could look at Watkins or Jackson, and he certainly could. Like, he could end up at Newcastle for sure. I think he stylistically fits quite similar to how Isak will play, so I think that will work quite well. But also, don't write off Villa yet because if Newcastle go, do you know what? We'll go and get Ollie Watkins. Then all of a sudden they might want a starting striker because realistically that signing from Nice is replacing Duran or Rashford or what have you from last season. So
Yeah,
yeah, if Watkins goes, I think you could still see Villa as an option for Jackson because Emery really rates the player. Um, I think it makes sense for him to go. I think some people are going, oh, we'll regret it and what have you. But for me, he hasn't proved himself to be. We're not winning a Premier League as Jackson as our starting striker.
no,
João Pedro, in after being on the beach for 3 weeks, came in and did more in that Club World Cup than I've ever seen Jackson do, even in his brightest days. He doesn't have the technical ability. He doesn't have the composure in front of goal or the ball striking. Um, I mean, I joked in our group chat that Nicholas Jackson would have broken his leg trying to score that goal that João Pedro scored. Well, either of them, either the one that curled in when he played against Thiago Silva or the one in the Club World Cup final. He wouldn't be able to to pull that off. So if we can get some good money for him, I think the fact that Ekitike and Sesko have all gone for similar money means the benchmark for Nicholas Jackson is around that kind of fee. So if you can go and cash in that kind of profit, then I think it makes sense for all parties again, because I don't think he's going to play much. I think Delap and Pedro are probably above him. I think Pedro is probably the number one starting the season after his Club World Cup performances, and Delap is probably his backup. So his third choice, cash him out, go play some football, and yeah, if you can prove us wrong, prove us wrong. But it won't be one that I'll regret even if he does turn into a top player in the future, because I've sold my shares in him, shall we say.
Yeah. And the one thing that I'm sort of curious with the Jackson deal as a whole is I've seen little murmurs around of a loan with an obligation could be accepted now. And I wonder if that's what sped up the interest in him a little bit. Because on Chelsea's part, it still means that it's a guaranteed sale, but the finances just...
That it stinks of Villa even more, mate, because they haven't got any money. So that absolutely. So if they go, do you know what? We're not selling Rodgers this summer. We're going to keep him for another year, but we'll accept that he's probably going to go next summer. Nicholas Jackson goes to Villa with a loan with an obligation, and then they can pay for him when Rodgers goes next year, and they cash out of the Rodgers thing, where Chelsea will probably be there and go, can we have Rodgers, please? So, God knows how that will fit in if we get Simmons as well. But yeah, I hadn't seen that. Obviously, I'm in my baby bubble at the minute, so I'm not as aware of all of the information. But if that's the case, that only makes me think it's Aston Villa even more.
I think it's just a possibility that Chelsea are open to a loan as long as there is an obligation attached to it. And I think, from what I've read, an obligation of 60 million is what they require. So it'll be interesting to see, because that way they get their 65 million, a 5 million loan fee with a 60 million obligation. We'll see where he ends up, but yeah, it looks pretty.
There's definitely going to be something going on in the background, because somebody like a David Ornstein does not go likely to leave unless something's going on. And as much as Fabrizio is a little bit of a clickbait merchant this summer and has been for the last few years, he's not going to come out with something as strongly worded as that if he isn't confident that there's something brewing.
Exactly. Yeah, I think as much as Fabrizio can be a little bit Marmite, he is always relatively clever with his words.
100%.
Words like "is leaving" are very different to "could leave," and
he's changed his own wording with that.
Exactly.
So it was could leave, possibility, Chelsea still rate him, but could leave if it makes sense, to now is leaving. It means for me it's in the back. It's something's going on in the background, because, I mean, outside of the Garnacho situation, Fabrizio is very hinty at what could happen. So unless there's something solid, he kind of keeps it as let's see what happens, etc. Yeah. So yeah, I think there's something probably bubbling away in the background.
One player that has gone a little bit quiet in recent weeks is Christopher Nkunku. I think there's no real doubts that he's going, and I think again there's another one that Fabrizio said he will leave. Where do you think he ends up? Because it's gone a little quiet recently.
I just think he was number 2 on a lot of people's lists, and now we're starting to see the dominoes fall of Sesko leaving, of Ekitike moving, potentially Jackson going as well. All of a sudden, if he was second and third on people's lists, he's going to get bumped up. He's one of those positionless players, isn't he? He's not quite a 10. He's not quite a 9. He's not quite a winger. So it's not as easy to get him sold, and he's on high wages. So yeah, I have no idea where he goes. Couldn't tell you. I thought Bayern might come back for him after the Musiala injury, but they've obviously been looking at the Diaz situation, so maybe that's something that comes up after that. Maybe Leipzig were able to tempt him in to go back there with the Simmons and the Sesko money. Who knows? But as long as he goes, is the main thing, and we get a half decent fee.
It's another one that I see a loan with an obligation coming in. I just got a feeling about. I just feel like Chelsea clearly want to get their outgoings done.
I think that will
And
depend on where it goes because we don't have that many European loan spots, and I don't think they'll want to take up another European loan spot for a Nkunku loan, but they might
yeah,
sacrifice one
we've
of
got
them.
we've got two more left, and there's not
Mm.
that many players that require them. Maybe Aaron Anselmino, but I think a lot of the
Yeah,
talk around him is they want a low Premier League or a high Championship line for him, so he continues his English development.
yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Of somebody that is definitely going on
Something like a
loan.
Jorgensen might take a spot if he's not
Yeah,
happy because I mean I put it out the other day on our Twitter, but I heard that it's not 100% that he will stay because he doesn't want to be number two. He was kind of promised when he came in that he would probably start as number two and get the opportunity to fight and take off the shirt off Sanchez. And even when Sanchez was playing rubbish, he didn't really get many opportunities. And so I wouldn't be surprised if he pushes for a move. So maybe
thing
he
is,
wants to
he
go on
did
loan.
get he got a small streak of games. It kind of been more than 4 or 5, and then he dropped a couple of howlers in there as well. And yeah, I sort of see his frustrations, but also he hasn't done enough with the opportunities he's been given. I don't think
Just don't know
either.
how he is in training. Like if Sanchez is shit in training and Jorgensen is mustard in training, but he never gets the minutes. Or it could be the
Yeah,
other way around, whereas he's frustrated, so he's not training well, and that's why he's not got the opportunities. But
yeah,
yeah, that's the only one that I can kind of think of that might take up another loan spot. So yeah,
yeah.
maybe there is room for a Nkunku to a Leipzig loan with an obligation or something, or a Bayern
Um,
Munich or something.
One player that is going on loan that I'm actually really happy about, and yet a little bit of news come out about it yesterday that made me even happier is the Mark Yu loan to Sunderland. I think that's a good loan for him. I think I'd have preferred him to go top end of the Championship because he'd get a lot more chances and he'd score a lot more goals there. I think, but going to play somewhere like Sunderland is a proper learning curve for anyone who wants to play football in England. They're such a passionate fan base.
Mate, it's
You'll
such a
get
good fan base.
you'll get a lot of support. You're going to play with some good players. They've got the likes of obviously Granit Xhaka there now, so you've got a proper leader you're going to play under. And it come out yesterday that Chelsea have got a clause in the loan deal where there's a penalty fine if he doesn't play X amount of games or X amount of minutes. So I'm really impressed with the loan deal, to be honest. And as long as it goes the way that we all hope it goes, I think it could be a really good deal for him. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree, mate. I think great fans, they'll love him because he works his ass off. As much as they've done a lot of signings this summer, I don't believe they've signed a striker. Um, with the kind of service he could get behind him, I mean, with Xhaka there, you've got that Enzo Leafy, I think is how you say it, who a few years ago was touted as one of the best up and coming talents out of France and not quite gone the way he would have wanted, but he's a very, very good player. You got that Adingra who they've just signed from Brighton as well. So he's gonna get service. Um Sunderland are trying to make it. They've gone down the route of we're gonna spend a lot of money and we're gonna invest and we're gonna try and stick it in and stick in the Premier League and push one of the other guys down to the championship. So I think he's a good loan. I think he'll do well. Um, he just has this knack to finding chances for himself as well. Like when he scored that hat trick in the conference league. I mean, two of the goals he just kind of made out of absolutely nothing.
Yeah,
And people forget he was playing semi regularly for Barcelona less than 18 months ago.
yeah, exactly, 100%. And I'm a big fan of him, mate. Honestly,
I
again,
think he
like
would
you
have
said,
taken Jackson's spot. Sorry to interrupt there, but I think he would have taken Jackson's spot if he didn't get injured towards
oh,
the end of last season.
100%, 100%. He would have. I think we'd have comfortably finished in the top 4 if Mark Yu was available in that period where we had no striker. Because he'd have
Yeah.
scored, even if he'd have scored 3 or 4 goals in that period, would have done us absolutely plenty. And I
Hmm.
just think that, like you said, the way he works and the way he presses is endearing to any fan base. And yeah, I'm a massive, massive fan of his. And I think he's not just a striker that works hard and runs a channel and then he's rubbish on the ball. He's good and he's a good finisher. He's calm and he finishes well. And I think a really good loan and he could be banging the frame of being in the first team squad next season. But obviously there's going to be a lot
Potentially,
of competition.
or a lot of profit because we only got him for what was it, 5 mil or something like
Yeah,
that. So
5 mil. Yeah,
probably sell him for 20 million now.
yeah,
So if he has a good loan with Sunderland, all of a sudden you're talking 40, 50 million, 40 million probably from next year.
yeah,
Or he comes in and he challenges for the place in the side. So
yeah.
yeah, I really like the player. I mean, any player that Joe Shields recommends, I like. So
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. Um, so we've got a couple of our boys now that have gone out on loan to our sister club, Strasbourg. You've got Mike
mhm.
Penders, Kendry Paez, and his name's blank, Mamadou Sarr. The
Yep.
three of them have gone out on loan, as well as Ishe Samuel Smith and Matthias Mugu have gone there permanently. So Strasbourg, Chelsea FC in France next season. They've got half of their starting 11 are going to be Chelsea. Um, what do you think? I think Penders we all called that. I think it was an obvious one.
Yeah.
And he's going to be number one. He's going to play a lot of football in a top 5 league. I think it's a perfect loan, perfect development. Paez, I think it was needed. I think it was necessary to get him adjusted to Europe. And then Mamadou Sarr, he just needs to play minutes to continue his development. What do you think on those guys? And then also the sale of Ishe Samuel Smith as well.
I think from a Pender's perspective, I kind of got to a little bit of a point where it didn't look like we're going to sign a goalkeeper. So I was just like, fuck it, just give it to Penders and just let him learn. Because even if he makes mistakes, I can't imagine he'll make more mistakes than Sanchez. But probably does make sense for him to go and have, if he can go and have a Petrovic type season, but stylistically fits what we want more, I think he'll be guaranteed number one next season. I think it'll be a good development for him as well. Um, Rosnier is a good coach as well. So I think it will be a good loan for him. I'm very excited to see what Paez does. I think a lot of people have kind of discounted him as a player. I'm not sure if they think he's potentially as good as he actually is, and they might get a bit shocked when he starts playing next season. Um, Mamadou Sarr just looks like he wasn't ready. Chelsea probably thought he was ready. There's probably a little bit of FFP jiggery pokery going on where we could sign him. I can't remember what we signed him for now, but like a very nominal fee, not really make much of a difference now. Whereas if you signed him next year, it's going to be 30, 40 million because yes, we don't have to negotiate with ourselves, but there's still a fair market value kind of conversation to have. So, yeah, good loan for Sarr. Go and play. Maybe you can come and replace Wesley Fofana next year if he has another stinker of an injury season. Israel Samuel Smith is a bit of a weird one because obviously we sold him. Obviously, we'll have a buyback and a matching clause and everything like that. But as much as I love Hato and I'm very happy that he's here, kind of surprised a little bit that they didn't look at Israel Samuel Smith as that backup, but maybe they just deemed he wasn't ready.
Yeah, I think that's what it sounds like. And I think something that we're going to come on to in a little while, I think there could be a sort of thought process of send him there for a couple of years, let him really develop, and then maybe when we eventually sell Mark Cucurella, that he'll come back in and sort of fight with Hato potentially. So Dan, we got a few more players I think that we haven't spoke about that need to go, but no real links at the minute or nothing massively imminent. Ben Chilwell looks like we might have to rip up his contract, which would be quite a sad day for me. How do you feel about Chilwell? I know the fan base is generally split.
I think I would have sold him last year, which obviously we looked to do, and I think it just has to happen. And if it means that we rip up his contract so he can go somewhere for free, then it is what it is. It's a sad one. He was a great player for us, etc. But yeah, it's just time to move on. To be honest.
Thing is, I think he deserves us to rip up his contract in a nice way, not let's release him because he's shit. It's not that. It's just
No.
he doesn't fit the profile of player that Enzo Maresca wants. It's abundantly clear. It's a shame because I mean, prior to that first injury, he was electric, and
Yeah.
that partnership of wing backs with Reece was just so good to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Then obviously came the injury, but he's been injury free for sort of 18 months now, maybe a little bit more, and that's probably helped him in a way because he's probably been able to condition his body a little bit better, and hopefully should prolong his playing career a little bit more than how it looked at one point. I just hope that somebody takes a chance on him, because if they get Ben Chilwell, get him up to proper match fitness, somebody's going to get a really, really good player there. And
Absolutely, and
hopefully,
that's why I think it's good for them to rip up the contract, because then even if Chelsea wanted like a couple of million, we'll just add that couple of million onto his contract, which will get him over the line
the
to a fee.
frustrating thing is, why not do it in July or June? Let him have a pre-season somewhere,
Yeah,
because now, even if he joins somewhere this week, which is really unlikely, it's the start of the season for everyone. So he's not going to have a proper pre-season to really get his body moving. Obviously, he'll have been doing stuff with Chelsea, but he hasn't got any match fitness whatsoever. So yeah, I think it will, wherever he goes, it will take him a month or two to settle and really get to that sort of peak level of fitness. But I just hope somebody takes a chance on him. It'd be nice to see him in the Prem still, but I'm unsure if anyone in the Prem will take him on.
on a
Mainly
free, I wouldn't be surprised if
his
Palace come back
wages.
for him.
They've got two left backs now though, so I
Have
think
they?
that one's out the window. Yeah, they signed Borna Sosa
Fair.
as a sort of a backup to Tyreek Mitchell. Who it did look like at one point Tyreek Mitchell was going to go for free, but yeah. So I hope somebody in the Premier League takes a chance on him. But I love Ben Chilwell, and I wish him the best, and I hope he gets the right move and can reignite his career really. The player that came in to replace him last summer was Renato Vega. Very marmite in the fan base because of his antics. We're going to sell him. We're going to make a lot of profit on him. His deal with Atletico Madrid sort of fell through. I've heard rumours personally of Saudi. I know it's now been sort of put in mainstream media that Saudi is an option for him. Do you think that's where he's going to end up?
No idea. I can't imagine Chelsea were as bullish on the fee with Atletico unless they knew that there was other options and they would sell him elsewhere, because for the sake of a couple of million, 5 million or whatever, I think they would have just done the deal if that was the only place he was going to go. I mean, Saudi have a big contingent of Portuguese players now, so yeah, they seem to be okay out there. They seem to be one of the only nations that don't turn around and leave again after 6 months. So yeah, maybe he goes to play with João Felix and Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah, I see. I can see that happening definitely. Especially he's young enough to go out there, earn his bag, and then come back to Europe still in his prime. I
I
mean, I
mean,
think
Giz was playing in Switzerland 12 months ago, earning
exactly. He's
peanuts.
only 22.
So if he came Chelsea, tripled his, probably 10x his wage, and then goes over to Saudi and 10x's it again, Giza's laughing.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so yeah,
Exactly.
we'll see. I mean, for me, I don't really care. I quite like the player, but I mean, Giza wanted to leave, come in as promising himself as a Swiss Army knife, got a call up to Portugal because Chelsea gave him a good platform, and then as soon as Portugal told him he was a centre back, he wanted to leave to go and play a centre back. So any player that's completely for himself, fair enough, leave. I
Yeah.
don't hate it. I get it. Your short career, you want to play for your country, fine. But I have no qualms for selling him and get him out of your club as quick as possible for as much money as possible.
Yeah, I agree, mate. Our good friend, Mr. Simon Phillips, put out an article on his site yesterday about Axel Disasi and the interest in him. I think there's 3 or 4 Premier League clubs interested. Wolves have shown a bit of interest. He's obviously got to go. He's not good enough. I do think he sort of suits the Premier League in a way. I think the sort of the physicality, he does turn like a bit of milk, but other than that, I think he's actually not too bad on the ball, and I think he is a leader in his own right. I think back to that Man City away performance where him and Levi were just absolute units, and there is a player there. I just don't think he's consistently good enough, or when he's at his top level, he's got enough quality to play for a top sort of
Just think
six
he needs to
side.
play as an actual centre back. He
Yeah,
can't
people keep saying
play.
the right back, and it's
Yeah,
just
and he can't play as a like in our formation. He can't play as a right centre back when we've got the
exactly.
ball because he's terrible out wide. Like you say, he turns like a truck.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, so, but I think he'd do quite well at half decent. So I mean, somebody like he won't go there, and I don't think we've seen any links with him. But somebody like a West Ham, where you just got to be a centre back, he probably look quite competent.
That's
Like,
why I think the Wolves links that Si mentioned could
yeah,
work. Like
hmm
they generally play a back three. If you stick him in the middle of it, where he hasn't got a turn, he hasn't got a stick in a channel, he can just command that sort of line. I think he'd actually be a really good addition for them. And
yeah.
I do think there's a half decent player there. It's just not our level.
I think Wolves are going to have a good season as well.
Yeah, I do. I'm definitely
The
interested to see how they
manager's
go.
done fantastically after he came
They
in.
just signed that John Arias
Yeah,
from Fluminense. I think was it Fluminense or the other one we played against? I can't remember. One of the Brazilian teams we played against. That I really like him. I think he's a good player, and I think Brazilians generally adapt to the Premier League quite nicely. Um, the last of sort of the outgoings that Chelsea really need to get done, and a player that really's got to go. We've just got to get Raheem Sterling off the books now, haven't we? There seems to
yep.
be a lot of interest. He's just got to decide what he wants, whether he's going to stay in London and go to a Fulham or somewhere like that, or
Or West Ham, I saw
he's got good
yesterday as
offers
well.
from Europe and it further afield. Just got to go now, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, if he's got any delusion left in him that he can get back in the England squad, he needs to make his decision quickly so he can nail a spot in one of the teams that he's playing for, and then try and fight back in for that. So get stop holding on to the fact that you think you can play for Chelsea, and just go choose your club, go and earn a good wage, go and play football, and yeah, stop being a fanny.
Yeah.
Basically, just
Similar to Sarsi and Chilwell, though, a little bit. I still think there's a player in there that could do all right for the right club. He's just not top level, and sometimes you've got to accept. Like Raheem Sterling was playing at Liverpool at 16 years old, so
yeah.
his career was always going to be a bit shorter at the top level than what a peak athlete would, because a lot of the peak athletes don't start playing for the top clubs till they're sort of in their 20s. So he's sort of 4 or 5 years ahead of the curve. Just accept that your career at the very top level is done, but you can still have a good career at a good club if you just swallow your pride and get on with it. But
Yeah, I think
money,
he could go and
money
do
talks.
a Hudson Odoi type situation where he wasn't good enough to Chelsea due to his injuries. Sterling's not good enough to play for Chelsea due to his body being about 35, even though he's not. So go play for Fulham. Go and have a decent couple of years there. Go play for a West Ham. You quite liked it under Potter when he was here. Go and do that.
Yeah, exactly. Right, let's cut short or not cut short because that was quite a long segment. But let's cut away from all of the outgoings now because there's been a lot of them. I feel like we've spoke about probably about 20 different players in the last half hour or so. Let's move on to uh, briefly Xavi Simons because there's not too much to talk about other than the fact that it is going to happen at some point. We've just got to chill out and just wait for it a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I think the only thing that's annoying me is if we're going to get it done and we've now got a load of outgoings gone out, can we not just get it done so we can have a little bit of a preseason? I know we haven't got a preseason, but can we just get him in the building because
Yeah,
we don't want to if we don't want him to lag behind because he didn't get to train with us, and we've only really got 5 or 6 weeks of the start of the season before you start getting the stupid amount of international breaks, and also the Champions League will start, so then you won't be able to train because it will be play, rest day, light day, prepare, play. So let's just get it done now. Let's get him in. Hopefully they're looking to do that to maybe unveil him at the weekend for the preseason friendlies
yeah.
that we were talking
That's
about.
my conspiracy that I think that they're going to
Mm,
wait and unveil him either on Friday against Leverkusen or Sunday against Milan.
yeah. Well, I
I'd
know
like to,
Maresca wanted him in by Monday for when
yeah,
everyone came back, ideally, but yeah, I mean, if he could get him by the end of the week, it is what it is.
I'd like to see him unveiled on Sunday, but that's just selfish. So I'm going to be there.
Just want him unveiled today, mate. Just get it
Yeah,
done, get
well,
him
yeah,
in.
I'd rather that because then I could see him play Sunday potentially. But
Yeah, true.
um, the only other real sort of incoming that's got any legs to it at the minute, and I don't know if anyone's seen it because not many of the mainstream media are talking about it that often. Alejandro Garnacho.
No, I haven't heard, mate. What's the latest on that?
Well, I think Fabrizio's mentioned it once, maybe twice, an hour for the last 3 weeks. Like it is fucking constant, isn't it?
Oh, mate, it was so funny when I think
The
he
one
put out on
last.
his
Did you
video
see the one
yesterday.
last night?
Said, don't forget about
Don't
Garnacho. Mate,
forget
you
about
haven't
Garnacho.
stopped talking about him. We don't all have dementia. Like, we
We
know
can't
that
fucking forget it.
It's like, we're not all going, I wonder who Chelsea are looking at. Like,
Yeah.
it's Garnacho. Yeah, we get
Yeah.
it. If Garnacho is available at a decent fee, Paul Winstanley really likes him and wants to bring him in. Like,
Yeah. Just don't forget that, mate. Yeah.
yeah. I won't be forgetting it's Winstanley anyway. Because if it goes tits up, we know to blame.
We've spoken about this a bit off camera. I don't know if we've actually spoken about it together on camera. I think we may have spoken about it separately. I spoke about it a little bit with Jay last week, so I won't give my opinion again. What's your thoughts on this? Because I think that we're in a similar boat.
I don't actually hate Garnacho as much as everybody makes out. Just like when everybody was going, why the fuck do we want to sign João Pedro? Where's he going to play? Blah, blah, blah. And then he played, and everybody was like, oh, actually, this geezer's quite good. So I don't hate him that much. I think he's a good player. I think there's a player in there. I do think there's an element that the off the field stuff is Man United related, not player related, because that seems to be one of the most toxic atmospheres out there. I mean, everyone was talking about Sancho being a bad egg, and then it turned out that he wasn't. It was just Man United because he went to Dortmund, no issues, went to Chelsea, no issues. And how many times have we seen, well, Rashford, he was a bad egg. He's given up on football. He's blah, 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 goes to Villa, has a great season, now plays for Barcelona. So I don't think it's as bad as people make out. There's the contingent of Enzo Fernandez, who could potentially vouch for him if they were doing any background checks. So I don't hate it that much. I think there's a player in there. I'm just not sure it makes sense from a squad planning perspective because, yes, I get that we want eight players for the attacking positions, 2 in everywhere, and it would be Gittins and Garnacho and Pedro and Delap, etc., etc. But does he start? If he starts, like, I just feel like at the moment, if everybody was in pre-season, everybody was training, and everybody was at the right level, you're probably going to end up having Palmer, Simmons, and João Pedro starting, which only really leaves one more spot, really. And you've just signed Gittins for 55 million. You've got Esteval coming in, and you got Neto still. So I just don't know if it makes sense. And then next year you've got to deal with Paez and Quenda coming in. So in isolation, I don't hate the player because I think he actually fits to what we want to do. He works hard, he's direct, he scores goals. I mean, he's in a terrible Man United side last year, and I think he got double digits in both goals and assists. So he clearly knows where the goal is. He clearly is one of those players that chances just find him, and he works hard. So I don't hate it individually. I just don't think it makes sense longer term.
Yeah, I'm with you, to be honest, mate. My only thing is, and I might be the oddball here because I think a lot of people get concerned, like you are, about the squad planning and stuff. But generally, my thoughts on that is let the manager deal with it. There's going to be
I get that 100%. I get that 100%.
There's going to be ways around it. You'll get Gittins might play a few, then Garnacho might play a few. They're both young. They're both going to be inconsistent at times. They're both going to have purple patches, probably weaker spells. And quite frankly, at Chelsea, it's dog eat dog. If you're good enough, come out on top. If not, we'll sell you. And that's the sort of level we've got.
That, and I don't hate it for this year. It's for the longer term when Quenda comes and Paez comes, and then next year you're going to start the transfer window with Delap, Pedro, Guiu, Simmons, Palmer, Esteval, Neto, Quenda, Paez, and I'm probably missing one.
Well, Garnacho, Gittins.
And Garnacho and Gittins. So that's 11. You have 11 players for 4 starting spots. And then you start to get to a position where maybe you don't want to sell Paez, but he's looking at it and going, well, where the fuck am I going to play? And Quenda's coming in and he looks like an unbelievable talent. It's like, well, where are my minutes coming from? Because Simmons and Palmer are going to nail down their spots immediately. None of those two are going to play. None of those other players are going to play up front. So it's just Delap and kind of Pedro to fight it out. And then you've got Esteval, who's the best talent that's come out of Brazil since Neymar. So I just don't know if it makes sense long term, but
I think
I don't hate it.
the cream always rises is the way I look at it, and I think the ones that are good enough, that all will be good enough, will show themselves, and the ones that aren't won't. And I've always thought, if you look at what Chelsea have done in previous windows, they'll sign certain players for now, but under the understanding behind the scenes that 2 years on we'll sell them, like a Noni Madueke, somebody like that. I've always thought the same with Pedro Neto.
Yeah.
They'll sign him if he turns into the elite winger that they think he could be, and that most people think he could be, then they can keep him. If not, the likelihood is you're going to get 2 decent seasons out of him. You can sell him for what you bought him for. You haven't lost any money. If anything, you're making book profit.
Go and play for Portugal FC in Saudi.
In
with
Saudi,
Ronaldo.
exactly. But yeah,
I don't hate it. Like I say, for this year, I don't mind it. For longer term, it just raised some concerns. I think a lot of people are overreacting with the news. Oh, he's terrible. Blah blah blah. He's not.
That's the first thing. You've got to isolate the player and the sort of the baggage that he brings, really. And I think the player is a good player. His volume of shots and dribbles is high, very high, if anything. And there's obviously room to improve. And Maresca's got a track record of improving players, so that's good. The behind the scenes stuff seems to stop when it comes to Chelsea. I know that I'm not sure how true this was, because it was only average people on Twitter saying it, but there was certain clauses in the deal for Sancho within his Chelsea contract that if he broke them, for example, this wasn't something I said, but this is an example in my head. Certain types of cryptic tweets or Instagram posts or things like that produced a fine. So I wonder if that is true, if Chelsea did something like that with Garnacho.
I mean, if you could get Garnacho on a loan with an obligation and a penalty clause like we did with Sancho, I don't think anybody can complain. And I think if you can get him for 30 million or less, again, you can't complain, because even at 30 million, he plays and does an average year. You probably get 30, 40 million from next year if you decide to move him on.
Exactly. Moving on to one of our current players that, I mean, he was one of our players of the season last year. Mark Cucurella. I've sort of run out of words to say about him. I just love that type of player, the passion, the energy, the sort of the real determination that he shows when wearing a Chelsea shirt. And I don't think many people would have sat here 18 months ago talking about him in this way. But since he come back from that injury in March last year, he has been phenomenal for club and country. And rightly so, there's talks of a new deal on the cards. He's 27 now, I believe, 26. His current deal runs out in 2 years, I believe, or 3 years.
2028 it is.
Yeah, so I think Chelsea just want to get him secured so that there's no issues of losing him next summer. Because another one that I think we'll probably get 2 more years out, and then we cash in while we can still get a good fee for him, with the likes of sort of Jarell Hato and maybe Ishe Samuel Smith at Strasbourg developing into the sort of players we want to be there long term. How do you feel about Cuckoo?
I'm one of the people who aren't actually that high on Cucurella. It sounds mental. I don't know what it is about him. I think he's been fantastic. We wouldn't have been where we were without him, but I still just have something in the back of my head that just goes, if he goes, he goes. I can't put my finger on it. I think it probably makes sense to give him a new deal. But I'm so high on Hato that I wouldn't be surprised if towards the end of the season that Cucurella isn't even playing as much as you think he would at the start of the season, because
I agree.
Taking it.
Yeah, I'm massive on Hato as well, and I think he's really, really going to test Cucurella's mettle. And it's nice to have that. That's what Chelsea used to be. That's what we grew up watching Chelsea like, having 2 excellent options in every area of the pitch, and we're starting to get back there now. And it's going to be a really, really intriguing season.
Yeah, I can't believe it's back again in a week or whatever.
It's crazy.
10 days.
The fact that it's sort of 3 weeks or so since we won the Club World Cup, pre-season resumed this week. I like seeing all the pictures of the players in training. It's nice, and it's the world's shortest pre-season. It's going to be a 13-day pre-season before Palace at home week on Sunday.
Yeah, crazy, mate. It's going to be very interesting to see how that affects the start of the season. We've got all the momentum, we've got all of we've done well and good feel factor and new signings and excitement, but also we're going to train for like 2 weeks, where usually you train for like 2 months. So
If
it's going to be
anything, I
interesting.
think that gives us a bit of a boost because the players aren't going to be tired going into the first few games. I think it's more once that Christmas period hits, that's when they'll start flagging.
Potentially, yeah, potentially.
Because obviously, a lot of teams have been in training since the 1st of July. Obviously, we only started this week. So teams are going to have played 4 or 5 games. They're going to have started to pick up little niggles and be back to sort of that peak fitness where it is easier to pick up a knock and things like that, where we're going to have had the 2 friendlies this weekend, which I doubt any player plays both games. So we're going to have had effectively a week and a half training and a game before Palace at home. Hopefully that means that with the momentum of the Club World Cup and the confidence running through the group and the freshness of having 3 and a bit weeks off, we can start the season on fire, because it's something that we'll come to next week when we preview the season. But our first 10 fixtures are very, very kind, as kind can be. I don't think there's that many easy games in the Premier League these days, but generally the first sort of 10 fixtures on the board for us are quite kind.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's why I've got three Chelsea players in my fantasy football at the moment.
Let's sidetrack onto FPL quickly, because we've started our Blues Feed mini league, which we'll leave in the comments today. So if you all join that, we'll sort out a little gift for the winner at the end of the season. So everyone join on to that. Danny, give me let's play a little hypothetical game. Give me 3 players non-Chelsea related that you have to have in your FPL this year.
Ooh,
If
non-Chelsea
you
related.
want me to go first, I'll go first.
Yeah, you go first. Let me just have a
Okay.
quick thought about.
So for me, it's Juve at West Ham. Honestly, this guy is class. Left wing back. I watched him when England played against Senegal, and he's a proper wing back. And some of the crosses he puts in are outrageous. I think he's going to be one of them low key FPL options that goes a little bit under the radar. I think with the new sort of defensive, whatever points, I can't remember what they're called, defensive something or others. James Tarkowski, he's just a brute, and he's just a big old school centre half that's going to win everything. And Morgan Rogers is my other one. I think I like Morgan Rogers, man. I think he's such a good player, and I think he's going to go on another level this year.
Fair enough. I'll go a little bit different and a little bit like low key of players that people won't be thinking about. But Mark Guiu at Sunderland, I think for 4.5 million is going to be a great 8th attacker for you. I will go for Elliot Anderson at Nottingham Forest, because he gets so many defensive contribution points, and you could probably just play him any week, and he'll pick you up 3 or 4 points every week. And I will go for Kudus at Spurs as a little bit different thing, because I think he'll get back to the levels that he was at West Ham in the first season, and if he can have a similar impact to what Mbeumo did for Thomas Frank at Brentford, he's going to have a great season.
I've got 2 of your 3 in my team already.
I have 0 of your 3.
I have no Spurs players, so that tells you the 2 that I've got.
I have 2.
I can't do putting Spurs players in. I toy with it for a bit, but it hurts my heart too much.
I've got Solanke and Kudus.
I've got no Spurs and no Arsenal, but that's just because I don't.
I've only got Gabriel for Arsenal.
So
cool.
Make sure you all join our FPL. We'll put it on Twitter. We'll put it in the comments on the YouTube video and on the Spotify video. Danny, on to the last sort of thing that I wanted to talk about. Obviously, we're going to be previewing the season next week before our open game against Palace. We've got 2 friendlies this weekend. We've got Leverkusen on Friday night, and then AC Milan on Sunday afternoon, which I'll be going to. Both weirdly being shown on Channel 5 in the UK.
Yeah, and DAZN as well. I think.
Because it's the Visit Malta Cup or some bollocks like that, whatever. what do you want to see out of these friendlies? Would you like to see one game where you see like a starting 11 and one with a weaker 11, or would you like to see them sort of mix and match it across the two games?
I'd like to see what he's thinking at the start of the season. I'd like to see a team where it's, say, for example, Sanchez, Cucurella, Colwell, Chalobah, James, Caicedo, Enzo, Palmer, Gittins, Neto, Delap, or Neto Pedro, for example, something along those lines. See what he's thinking. See if the tactics that he used at the Club World Cup is still at his forefront, because I think that will make us so much better. I'd love to see some minutes from Esteval. Just want to see him in a Chelsea shirt. And the main thing is don't get injured, anyone. Outside of that, I'm not really that bothered if we lose 4-0 or
There's your motivational
whatever.
quote for the day. Don't get injured, anyone.
Yeah, just don't get injured, basically, because we've not played for 3 weeks. We're in a pre-season. We're going to be back soon. That's just Reece James. Don't pull your hamstring.
I think you've half answered my next question there. So I'll ask it in a different way. Is that your strongest 11 of the current players we have, what you just said?
Probably what's going to start game week 1, and obviously we're not talking about Simmons because we haven't actually officially signed him yet. Yeah, probably something like that. Yeah.
That was my next question. We'll come on to that next week after we've seen this weekend and we've got a little bit more information.
Or if you're maybe doing something different, you could get drop Neto, or like keep one of Gittins or Neto for the left wing, play Palmer on the right, Pedro in the 10, and Delap up front is another slight variation that you could do as well.
Yeah, I think that's the way that I would edge towards until Simmons.
But I think by the end of the season, if we sign Simmons, our front four will predominantly be Simmons, Palmer, Esteval, Pedro is what I think we'll end up with as the first choice.
I think it'll be similar, but I don't think Esteval will nail down a starting position this year. I think he'll play a lot of games.
Back end of the season, I think he will. I think he's just that good.
Yeah, I think next year will be when we really see him nail it down. And
I just think physically in the Club World Cup, I never saw him struggle. I mean, Cucurella is one of the most intense, nastiest, whatever you want to call it, fullbacks he could have come up against, and he didn't shy away from it, and he scored an absolute screamer. I just think as soon as he gets a little run in the team, he's going to play so well off the bench at one point that Maresca's going to start him, and he could just be one of those ones that as soon as he starts playing, you just can't drop him because he's that talented.
Yeah, see, my hesitation around him isn't anything to do with him. It's more just I feel like Chelsea are going to just ease him in so gently that
I think they'll want to, but I genuinely think that by the time he starts playing, they won't be able to.
Yeah, I think you could be right, but I think Jamie Gittins is going to go under the radar a little bit as well off the left. But anyway, that's the end of this week's episode. We'll be back next week with a full preview of the 25-26 season. Previewing Crystal Palace at home next Sunday at 2 p.m. So thank you all for tuning in, listening, watching, etc. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, enter the giveaway for the shirt for 1,000 subscribers, enter the FPL, and also we'll do a giveaway for that at the end of the season. So thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you next time.